Zambia has successfully negotiated a restructuring agreement with a consortium of private creditors concerning $3 billion of its international bonds. Now, this development marks a significant advancement in the country's prolonged debt restructuring process. The agreement details consolidating Zambia's three current bonds into two amortized bonds. Notably, one of these bonds offers increased repayments contingent upon improvement in the nation's economic prospects and its ability to manage its debt obligations effectively. And to further discuss this, I am joined by an economist and member of CSO Debt Alliance, Emmanuel Zulu. Emmanuel, thank you so much for coming on. Let's get started very quickly because there's not much time. Now, the steering committee for Zambia's bondholders and the Zambian government have announced they have reached an agreement to restructure Zambia's debt. Which public sector creditors have accepted? Is it Uhuru already? Are they part of those who've accepted?
Well, I think it is something that, first of all, is relating to the Zambian community and also the Zambian government, because I think if you recall, we did hit a snag in the first submission, with the creditors, official creditors rejecting the agreement between Zambia and the bondholders. So if you look at, the public sector, players that have, accepted this, I think so far we seem to have, a go-ahead. So far, I think the news is that all the players are agreeable to this, agreement. But of course, as a civil society, we agree and we are happy with the development, with a few reservations regarding the conditions that have come with these, bonds, on the new issued bonds, so to say.
Mm. And what more do we need to know about this agreement, right? How does it differ from the previous agreement that was already implemented or stipulated?
First of all, I think we must take cognizance that there was an issue of comparability of treatment that was not, fully, made clear to the parties, and I think that was the reason why the official creditors did reject the first agreement between Zambia and the bondholders. But I think that was discussed. So you get to see that this time around, the bondholders are foregoing over 800 million US dollars, unlike in the first instance where they were just foregoing about 700 million US dollars. So you can see that there's an increment in how much they are foregoing in terms of restructuring. And the fact that now they are reissuing the bonds, or maybe they have amortized the bonds into two. We have now bond A and bond B. Which gives a bit of space for Zambia, to prepare itself to start repaying these bonds at much lower interest rates. Because if you see the previous interest rates were quite high, we're talking about 7%, 8%, and above that. But now they've been reduced to about 5% and slightly just above that. So it gives a bit of fiscal space to Zambia, and I think the official creditors feel it is something that is acceptable and meets the comparability of treatment at this point. But of course, we see it to also be a bit of a challenge, especially that you now have two bonds. One, of course, has a higher interest rate and has got a short-term maturity, but the other one, of course, has a lower interest rate, but has got a condition tied to it, whereby if the conditions, the economic conditions improve, Zambia will have to pay more, or maybe even the repayment period will have to be shortened. So that leaves us, a bit in a skepticism, because the debt carrying capacity at the moment is weak, and the conditions stipulate that should there be an improvement, maybe to medium term, then we'll have to pay more. So the relief is, a bit questionable whether Zambia will be able to grow the economy to a level where they will be able to pay more. At the same time, provide, for its people and grow the economic, the size of the economy.
Mm. Now, this process has been beset by, it's been long delayed. There's been long delays that have beset this process, right? So help me put into context and help our viewers, just paint a picture for us on the impact of the delays on investments, economy, the growth for economic growth as well, also financial markets so far. What are some delays that this must have happened, and how long might it take to reverse these trends that must have been onset?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. The delays, of course, did have a negative impact on the Zambian economy because I think the economy was characterized with skepticism, and investments were being held back because investors did not know what would come out of this deal. And of course, Zambia remained in default state for as long as the Eurobond, was not restructured. You know that we were the first country to default in Eurobond post COVID. So that affected, investment flows, job creation, and also we saw how the local, currency was actually affected because it was under pressure. Zambia is import heavy; over 80% of the commodities are imported. So if you don't have investment flows coming through, I think that gets to negatively affect even the cost of living. Well, I think on the delays, we expected this to be done as soon as possible, maybe a period of 1 year, but it went up to 3 years, and that also points to some of the weaknesses that we saw with the common framework, mode of debt treatment, because it did not stipulate a timeline under which, these negotiations and the restructuring should be done. So I think that is one take that we actually pointed out, even as a civil society, to say that, the debt, the common framework as the debt treatment tool did not have a time frame. That makes it, a bit weak in that area. And that also may be a discouragement for countries that may want to go through the same process because they may not know how long it will take to treat debt, and that means that the country remains on standstill.
All right, Emmanuel, I'm sorry I had to cut you there, but thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this. Emmanuel Zulu there, economist and member of CSO Debt Alliance, and he's here to talk. He was talking to us about Zambia's bondholders and the debt management. Emmanuel, many thanks once again.